So you want to learn how to ride a motorcycle and you want to join that community of being on two wheels and have that adventure of being out on the open road? Well, the first thing I'd like to share with you is what you can actually buy under the Learners Approved Motorcycle Scheme. For the longest time in this country and in Australia, it's been the case that everyone's known that you can have up to a 250cc motorcycle, which in many cases is far too small and underpowered for a lot of riders, particularly somebody my size. The world now of learning to ride is so much more adventurous because the amount of bikes that you can get that represent so many different styles of riding and capabilities of riding. Given that motorcycling is a very personal thing, there are so many different styles of riding you can do, from cruisers to sports to adventure and so many things in between. Let's analyze that and figure out what kind of motorcycle is going to suit you for your learner motorcycle and ultimately what's going to take you through your motorcycling career. The options really are endless these days and it's a pretty exciting time to be on two wheels. So most of you will know what a CBR 250RR is, and most of you will probably associate that with being a learner's motorcycle. And this is the whole point of this video, is to get away from that mindset because it just isn't the case anymore. This is a 650cc Honda CBR and this is a learner's approved motorcycle. Now the whole new scheme has opened up so many possibilities for motorcycling in New Zealand and Australia, and this is part of it. I've had CBR 600RRs and they're amazing bikes. That's more or less what this is. It's just ever so slightly detuned so that you've got that safety aspect of not having an absolute rocket ship for a first bike. But it gives you everything else. It gives you the ride, it gives you the experience, it gives you the sound, all of those sorts of things. And if you want to be on a sports bike, you're basically jumping onto an absolute mean machine straight away. And Honda, it's got that name, it's got that reliability in the industry, it's well known, and there's aftermarket parts and accessories, huge support for those. And yeah, and also with the CBR, there's the other version of the CB, which comes with the naked front end, if you're more of a that way inclined kind of a rider, which I personally think they're pretty cool. In terms of size, this is basically going to suit most people up to about 6'2" or 3. I'd be at the upper end of that scale. And other than that, this is one of those bikes that you could see yourself going well past your learner's permit on. With learner bikes, often it's the case where as soon as you've done your learner's permit, you're done and you're on to your next bike. Some of these bikes are well worth hanging on to longer term. This is the CRF 300L. Now this is probably the closest thing you're going to get if you've come from a 250 dirt bike and you want to have that familiar feeling of what you remember, you know. If you're doing that transition, this is probably the closest you're going to get. Now this does actually come standard with ABS. Now there are some new laws around ABS, but, and Honda already thought of this, is there's an ABS off button. So if you decide to take this off-road and you want to be able to lock up that rear wheel into some bends, you can now do that but still be legal compliant on the road. Now this is a 300cc single banger, so it's not going to be the fastest rocket ship out there for a LAMS approved bike, but it is going to have that familiar sort of power to it. In terms of overall size for a size rider, given that these are basically the same size as your standard 250 dirt bike, in fact probably a little bit larger, then that's going to basically cover off most people that are anywhere between your sort of 5'6" and 6'4" realistically. But again, this is the sort of thing you just need to get bums on seats and try them out. Let's see what else Honda have got. Honda, being very well known for the Africa Twin, also offer the 500 CBX, which is a beautiful bike. And again, for a learner bike, it's so much bike for your money. At $12,995, this is a hell of a lot of motorcycle. You've got a parallel twin 500cc engine. You've got all of the size of a big adventure bike. You've got all of the space for pannier racks, and you can just sit and eat up the miles all day long. And this being what I would consider a full-size bike, this is going to be great for those larger riders who are sort of 6'2" plus and a little bit on the heavy side. You've got that torque, and you're just going to eat up the miles all day long, on or off the road. So very appealing bike here. Don't adjust your TV set. This is exactly how small this bike is. This is the Honda Grom. It's a 110cc, 5-speed, and what they like to call a city bike. Now, you can call it a city bike because you want to look at it's easy to park, it's easy to ride, it's easy to fuel, and it's very small for getting through traffic and things of that nature. But the real place that these Groms come together are when you get with other people with Groms and you're out having a laugh with the boys. They're incredibly easy to have fun on because they're so small, you can ride them to their limits and really push them and have a good laugh with it while staying relatively safe. That being said, if you were to use it as a commuter and you've got a spot of motorway riding, they'll still sit at 110 because of that 5-speed gearbox, so interesting option. And finally, from the Honda lineup, this is the CMX 500S. So this is the S model, couple of extra bucks, just bringing it up to that $12,000 mark, but it gives you a few nice little bits and pieces like the fork covers, upper shrouds and things of that nature, and this lovely seat. And I gotta say, as far as brand new bikes that you can buy today, this is the coolest one. It's got that parallel twin 500cc engine, so you've got plenty of power, torque for days, and this is going to cruise all day long if you decide you want to take it out for a cruiser. I would say though that this is probably not ideal for a super tall person from the factory, primarily because you've got those mid controls. Your knees might be a little bit tucked if you're anything really over 6 foot tall, and if you're anything over 120 kilos or so, you might find that you're starting to outweigh the bike just a little bit. But like I said, it's that 500cc parallel twin. It does have plenty of power. You can cruise at the speed limit all day long, and as I said, you're going to be the coolest looking person on a brand new bike, so that's definitely worth taking into account. This is the Ducati 659 Monster, and in my opinion, this is the sexiest motorcycle you can own as a learner rider. Now the 659 is a 659cc V twin, and it has got power for days, and I would say that this would be at the upper end of skill level in terms of a learner motorcycle, so you probably wouldn't want to have this as your very first motorcycle experience, because it's got that power, it's got that capability. It really is a very talented motorcycle in its own right, and you want to have a bit of skill to match that. Other than that, I mean, it's what you effectively would call a Street Fighter style motorcycle. So it's a race bike, but it's got that slightly more upright position with those MX bars and no fairing, and which is actually a style of bike I really enjoy. And yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to taking this one out for review very soon. So yeah, the Ducati Monster, one of the coolest learner approved motorcycles you can buy. So from BMW, if you're a Ponsonby resident, maybe you'll be interested in these. You got both 310s, the G and the GS. The G here is obviously a naked sports bike, and the GS is more of a touring bike. Now these BMWs probably represent slightly higher end in terms of fit and finish. They've got the nice displays, both with the upside down forks, just to give you that little bit more of a nimble feel in the bars there. But yeah, if you're in the market for something a bit nice, maybe you want to look at the BMWs. Again, you've got your naked sports bikes, so again you've got the moto style bars, so you're going to be a little bit more upright. Probably not suitable for a super large rider, whereas the GS, pretty much most people are going to fit on this. In terms of power, you're looking at 313cc, so not anything too crazy. For the G here, you're looking at about $7,000 once you're on the road, which honestly, I'm actually getting quite surprised by some of the prices on these. It's getting very affordable to get into motorcycling now, and with the GS being under $10,000 on road with warranty, you're really getting a lot of bang for your buck with some of these new bikes. Actually, while I've got your attention, I do want to talk about warranties. When you buy a new motorcycle, brand new from the dealer, it's going to come with a warranty. BMW have one of the best warranties available at 3 years. Now, if you think about it, if you're going to be on a learner's motorcycle for 1 year, when you come to resell that bike, which is often the case with learner bikes, you're going to be selling that bike with a 2-year warranty, more or less, which is what most brand new bikes come with anyway. So when you're looking at your learner's bike, it's worth considering the resale value. Later on, we're going to have a look at the KTMs. The KTM does the RC390, which is a sports bike for under $7,000, which you can then sell for easily 6 grand, maybe 5 depending on how you've looked after it. And your entire motorcycle has cost you, call it 1,500 bucks for the entire time that you've owned it. Now that in itself is a really good reason to buy new. So from the KTM lineup, this is the Duke 390. Now you'll hear 390 a few times in the Lambs approved KTM category, and that's because they all share the same 390 engine, which is a pretty interesting engine. The Duke here is the naked street fighter, if you will, which is basically exactly the same as the RC390 that we'll see next, but it gives you a more upright riding position, which might be more fun if you're a bit more of a commuter than a bit of a racer. But I've enjoyed this engine. I have ridden the RC390 a couple of times, and it's a fun engine. It's definitely got the power once you're up high in the power band. But I guess the difference with something like a Duke over an RC is mostly just down to that riding position. You're not going to be so hunched over like you are on a race bike. This is going to be a bit more upright. You're going to have a little bit more control because you've got the MX style bars as opposed to clip-ons. But KTM is kind of known for that ready-to-race attitude, and that ready-to-race attitude is quite apparent in this engine. It does have the torque to pull you around town, but it's much more of a high-revving, high-thrill kind of a motor, which is fun if you're into that sort of thing. Might not necessarily lean to all new riders. Someone might be looking for a bit more torque and low-end sort of get you away from the lights, as opposed to that high-end revvy. But most riders, I think, will find within a very short amount of time, this is something that you can learn to ride on and will grow with you as you progress in your skill. But yeah, the Duke 390. Let's see the RC. So this is the RC 390. Again, this is very similar to the Duke 390. It shares the frame and the engine. The major difference is going to be the riding position and ergonomics. This obviously looks a lot more like your traditional sports bike, and with that comes a few things like your clip-on handlebars and that kind of over-the-tank riding position. Now, the experience you're going to have is going to be quite similar in terms of power delivery and things of that nature, as I said, because there's a lot of shared components there. The main difference, that over the bar, and you're going to be a bit more of a kind of leaning around your ergonomics are just going to be a little bit different. I've actually ridden this bike quite a few times. I have enjoyed it, and my real takeaway from this bike is that it's a fun bike to ride. It actually suits my size, and it's also just got most of that power really on the top half of the power band. So once you get that rev range up, this engine will really come alive and you'll really be able to get some power out of it, which is super fun. I personally find it just lacks a little bit in the around town low range sort of torque. I would definitely say that this would probably lean towards somebody who's a little bit more confident going in. If you've never ever ridden before, I'd probably steer maybe a little bit away from the KTMs because they do have that extra power. But that being said, if you've passed your basic handling and you've done an absolute great job of that, pretty much any Lambs bike is going to be great for you, and that's kind of the point of this new Lambs system. Also from KTM, including with that 390 engine, is the Adventure series. Now this is obviously a derivative of the very, very popular KTM Adventure series bikes. Those are great bikes, by the way, and this is the baby entry-level one. So again, we're using that 390 motor, but this has got a slightly different gear ratio and it's got very different suspension. This is the Adventure, so you're expecting to go off-road a bit. It comes with a hybrid tyre, but it comes with the ability to go directly off-road. So if you want to go and do those adventures, maybe some camping, hunting, whatever it is, something where you're not just on the blacktop all the time, this might be for you. And the other important thing about this bike is it's also a bit more suited to a larger rider. If you're sort of 6'2", 6'3", you're still going to be very comfortable on this bike. There are a lot of the bikes in the entry level, particularly the smaller sort of 250s and under, that are just going to be very difficult for a larger person to ride. Ask me how I know. And this bike is a very, very comfortable seating position. Again, it's very upright, but it's also expecting you to stand on it a bit because you've got those off-road pegs, you've got the off-road bars. It's very much a dirt bike with that 390 that is going to be a nice comfortable tourer as well. So yeah, very interesting offering. Now also from KTM, there is a 200cc engine which is available. I'm basically just looking over the stuff that I think you guys will be more interested in. There's no way we're going to be able to cover everything, but from KTM, this 390 series of bikes, the Duke, the RC and the Adventure, these seem like really great options for people that are learning, first bike, things like that. And yeah, I actually do want to get a bit more involved in some reviews of these, and I think this will be the next one I take out. So make sure you're subscribed to see a hands-on first impression with this particular bike. I'm going to take it out very soon. Now, the important thing about this KTM range is the pricing. These are amazing bang for buck. You're looking for the RC390 is $7,600, the Duke is just under 8, and this one is just over 10. For that kind of money, you're getting a lot of motorcycle and you're getting that new bike warranty, which is super important. It gives you that confidence to just say, hey, if anything goes wrong and you don't entirely know what it is, you can just take it back to the dealer and say, hey, it's making a funny sound or something doesn't feel right. Can you take a look at it? And you'll get that new bike warranty care and attention, which I think is really important, especially for a first rider. Suzuki's got a fair few options when it comes to the lambs category. This is the VStrom, which is a sports tourer, which effectively means it's quite similar to a dual sport, like your big adventure bikes, but when they're sold new, they're more focused to road riding. But if you wanted to, you could throw some knobblies on there and do a bit of both. This one is the 650 V Twin, and it shares the same motor as the SV650, which is also available on lambs. And the thing I like about this particular bike is it's what I would consider a full-size motorcycle. It's plenty big for anybody who's 6'2" plus, maybe even up to 6'4" or 5 if you're a particularly tall individual. And it's one of those bikes that just sort of it can do a bit of everything. You can do your long rides, you can do a little bit of off-road, you've got plenty of space for your pannier racks and your rear boxes and that sort of thing, and it's going to let you do quite a lot. I would definitely recommend this for someone who's a larger person, who's not overly worried about where they want to ride and the type of riding they want to do. You're going to have a very neutral position, being a touring bike, and you're going to have plenty of torque. The way that this engine is restricted for the lambs approval is that it cuts off a certain amount of power via the ECU once you get to 5,000 RPM. So what it gives you is it gives you all that low end torque for getting away from the lights, getting up to speed as you want to. And I mean, with a 10,000 RPM redline, you're going to have full power half the time. And how often are you really going to be in that top half of the power band on a bike like this? So I would definitely think that this is something that's going to be appealing for a very new to riding, someone who wants to eat up those Ks and go and see some sights and go on those group adventure rides, which we live in New Zealand, it's a beautiful place to do it. Now with a price tag of $13,500, that is with a 2-year unlimited K warranty, that should give you some pretty good peace of mind for just getting out there on your bike and enjoying it, and you know that if anything goes wrong, it's got that factory back warranty. Now this is something that might seem a little bit more familiar to you if you're traditional in what a learner motorcycle is. This is the Suzuki G6 R250. Now Suzuki sort of tend to represent the more entry-level end of the market for the Japanese bikes. So this is only $4,995, brand new with a warranty. Now some of the other bikes like your Hondas and Yamahas might pay a bit of a premium, but they probably come with more features. This would be more of a Spartan kind of a bike where it's got a very basic dash and you twist the throttle, it goes and it does what it says it will. So that's pretty cool. It's nice to have that kind of contrast across the market as something a bit more entry level. But again, being a sports bike, you're going to be sort of in that hunched over position. If that's what you're into and you want a bit of a thrill ride, hey, fantastic. That said, being the 250cc model, when you're competing with what is now available up to 650, you're really going to be a bit down on power. So I wouldn't recommend this for someone who's particularly heavy or particularly tall. If you weigh sort of 95 plus, as some presenters do, you might find that you're going to struggle a little bit for torque, which is where you might lean towards something like a V-twin where you can, or a sort of 400cc plus bike. But other than that, if you're a smaller individual, maybe this is exactly what you want. Now you might notice I haven't mentioned the infamous DRZ 400, which by the way is an absolutely brilliant motorcycle. I've ridden them, friends have got them, they are great. However, there's been a law change around ABS on new motorcycles and the DRZ 400 does not fall into that category. So unfortunately, New Zealand cannot sell a brand new DRZ 400 under the new regulations. Now this is a point of contention and there are people in power that are trying to combat this, because adventure bikes in general don't necessarily need ABS because you're going to be on off-road, things of that nature. You're going to have to wait and see, but as at the time of filming, you cannot buy a DRZ 400 brand new without that ABS. So I'd love that to be on this list, and if that's a bike you're interested in, definitely consider the second-hand market, but as of right now, we can't get it. So I hope that's given you a pretty good idea of what you can expect from a learner motorcycle. Obviously the days of riding a 250 only or under are well and truly gone, and I personally welcome that. I think that's a great thing. I think having more torque and a larger motorcycle for people like myself is just a great thing, and I think it's going to open up riding to a lot more people. Now, probably on the next episode, well, we're definitely going to look over licensing and testing and getting yourself from never having ridden a bike to on the road with your learner's permit. And part of that, we're also going to look at gear as well. Gear is really important. I think that most people do underestimate the validity of wearing proper approved gear. And also, most importantly, protection of your noggin. We're going to get a little bit deep into why helmets are important and what to expect and what to look for that. And yeah, basically, with the next episode, now that you know maybe what type of motorcycle you want and what kind of riding you want to do, we can look at getting you all geared up and licensed up so you can get out on that bike and enjoy the roads, or not the roads. Also, just want to say thanks for watching. I hope you've found this informative and helpful. And also, if you get subscribed to the channel, aside from this series of learning to ride and getting you up to speed on your motorcycle, we're also going to be taking a few of these bikes for what I'd like to refer to as first impressions rides. They won't be full reviews because we probably won't have time enough with the bikes, but if we can get out there and just sort of try a few bikes out and give you just my opinion on them, and you can do with that as you will. I would say one thing around when you are looking to buy your motorcycle, don't just rely on the opinions of people on the internet. Go and test ride bikes yourself. Get that learner's permit and get out there and just try some bikes. See what you like. Because very often you might find that you like the look of a bike or the style of a bike and then spend some seat time on it and realize it's not for you. So, and a bike's a very personal sort of thing really, isn't it? So make sure you get the right bike for you. You've got the power, you've got the size that is right for you and something that you're really going to enjoy. But yeah, get subscribed. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, we'd really appreciate hitting the like button. And big thanks to TSS and Motormart for helping us out. And yeah, we will see you in the next episode and we'll get you on that bike. Thanks for watching.